The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings, the beginning of 2023 PGA Championship Week on the show on Mayo Media Network, as we're going to have you covered every single day of the week of the tournament, including the return of showdown shows this week on Mayo Media Network, and a very special announcement, which I'm sure is coming, I don't know, let's say Monday. Let's put a day on that. Monday, you'll probably get some news about what's going on in terms of more golf content coming at you completely free. It's going to be great days. Smash the like while you're out there and give me your favorite fade down in the description. And I got monies to give away because it's Major Championship Week. Currently in the prize pool, the kitty, $500 cold, hard cash. You can get ballots into the draw myriad ways. Here's the best way to do it. Leave a rating and review. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts for the Pat Mayo Experience. Even if you've done it before, please go do it again. Bump yourself back up to the top of the list. Ditto for Spotify. You can't leave a review on Spotify, so you want to screenshot that to me or just put it in anyway because you're feeling generous. But if you want to get your hands on the $500, you probably should screenshot it to me or email the show or do whatever it is. 5 stars on Spotify, 5 stars on Apple. Any time that you see a tweet about the PGA Championship from @ThePME on Twitter. You should follow over there, by the way. Every time you retweet it, it's a ballot into the draw. Easy stuff in that regard. That will take less than a second. So you can pile up a bunch of ballots that way if you want to. The other way to do it, and this is worth 5 ballots in the draw. The reviews are worth 10. But sub to the Mayo Media newsletter. That's free to join down in the description. We'll have periodic updates if breaking news happens and new content probably every single weekday leading up to the tournament, all sent directly to your inbox. So please go sub to that right now. If you aren't watching this on YouTube or downloading the podcast, you're watching it on TV. Shout out to our friends at Game Plus on terrestrial TV. Just Google Mayo Media Network newsletter and boom, it'll pop up for you. That's how you get in the draw for the $500 cold hard cash. All the stats today, all the lineup generations, the simulations, all coming from fantasynational.com. Dip your toe into the water at fantasynational.com/Mayo to get 20% off. And the big one, the Listeners League is now open and it's already weirdly filling very fast. People just took the Byron Nelson off. They wanted to play in the PGA Championship Listeners League. Best tournament on DraftKings, 3 max entry, $15 to play, no rake, over $100,000 of guaranteed rake-free money in the pot at DraftKings. Find the link down in the description right now. We're going player by player today to find out who we like, who we don't like as we get prepped for the PGA Championship. Our opinion's going to change? I'm sure they will over the course of the next 6 days or so. But here are our initial thoughts, breaking everything down to get a better sense of what's going on and know better people to do this with. First, from Stokastic.com. He went outside last week. There's video proof of it. Ben Rasa, what's up?
Good, man. Yeah, I didn't know if I was going to be ready to come on the show after my adventures, but I made it. Excited to talk a little Oak Hill and see what we can come up with. I'm ready to dive in here.
Gupscorner.com and the co-host of the Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast on the Mayo Media Network, another show which you should check out. Maybe there's going to be some news on that show coming on Monday. Kenny, I don't know. What's up?
Yeah, we're actually recording on Sunday.
Oh.
I don't know what news you're talking about, but Tambo will probably tell me. But always glad to be on. Looking sharp, Pat. I mean, that pink, I can't pull that off anymore. I wear puke green because that's the only thing I can pull off. I can't pull off pink anymore since I got fat. I look like a swollen cherry blossom. So I'll live vicariously through you because you look great.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm wearing my derby gear, so Ben has seen me in this within the last week.
True.
And listen, I hit a derby winner with Mage, only because I really like the name. So sometimes I guess that's all it takes when it comes to horse capping. PGA Championship, a little bit different as it gets into it. Oak Hill, we are returning to the scene of the crime where Jason Duffner is going to be in our life for a very long time. He won at this course in 2013, but the course is much, much different this time around. They've removed over 600 trees from the course. So when you look at the leaderboard from 2013, you see Duffner and Furyk and all these like short accuracy guys. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case this time around because there were just you would have tree trouble the entire time. It would be like if you had a major at a more difficult version of the Heritage, where it was just add like another 400 yards to that course, and it's like, oh, now I'm just behind trees, I need to punch out. Not going to be so much the case this time around, so Bombers very much back in play, and frankly, I think it's probably going to be a massive advantage to be a Bomber this week at Oak Hill, and maybe that's the narrative that's going to take hold, because once people see that the trees are gone, they're like, oh, there's massive landing areas over there. That's how we're going to go. So Ben, do you have any skill sets in particular that you're targeting other than just, hey, who are the guys that bomb at the farthest?
Yeah, I mean, when you get into majors, of course, the real skill set is you got to be able to do a little of everything because you're going to be tested. But at this place in particular, the things that I kind of emphasized, you mentioned driving distance. I think you do need to be able to get it out there. Longer irons, though, are still, it's one of those things. It's not like, oh, I bomb it, it's just a wedge fest. Yes, you'll have some short irons, but I don't care who you are. 200 plus, things like that look like it's going to be a really serious part of Oak Hill here. So I'm looking at guys that can hit their long irons pretty close, because I think that's a big factor in who takes this down.
Yeah, Kenny, Andy Lack, actually, I think he walked the course. I think he went and played it, and on Fantasy National, you can see the shot distributions from the courses that we see all of the time. Like 38% of the shots come from this distance, and 15% come from this distance. Obviously, we don't have that this week, but Andy, and I put this in the newsletter last week, walked it out and gave us the splits on at least his projections from where the buckets of shots are going to come from versus the tour average. So shout out at ALAC Sports, by the way, on Twitter, if you want to go check it out. Pure bent grass greens, that's another change that was made in 2019 to this course. No more POA on these greens, pure bent grass. And frankly, I think we've seen 2 bent grass courses on the PGA Tour so far this year. Augusta National, which these greens are going to be nothing like, and this week at the Byron Nelson. So 200-yard plus is around 1/3 of the shots. So to kind of confirm what Ben said, and then you have 175 to 200 range, 22% of the shots. So Kenny, over 50% of shots, a majority of approach shots, and a lot of that includes the par 3s, which are just super long at this course, are going to come with those longer irons. So I guess the guys that put it out there a little bit further are going to have a bit shorter irons, but a lot of these are elevated greens as well. So if you're, I don't know, let's say Matt Kuchar, who has played some of these longer courses pretty well in his career, but he's 30 yards behind, and he has to hit a 6-iron into a green where other guys actually get to hit a lofted club like a 9-iron, that's going to be a huge difference in stopping your ball.
Yeah, it's going to be a big difference. But the thing about this is the PGA usually sets up the course a little bit easier than most typical majors. And from what the rain that they've gotten and the weather and the rain they might get next week, those greens could be sort of soft. So even if they are hitting it from, 6-iron, 5-irons, they could be able to stop it a little bit more, which, might give these guys a little bit more of a chance. But I mean, anytime it's a long iron fest like this, you got to think people are going to miss these greens as well. They changed these greens completely. I mean, the last time they played here, the issues that they had were around the edges of the greens. It almost created like a punch bowl because of all the sand all the added sand and stuff from bunker shots and all the other things were just added levels to the edges of the greens. They fixed that now. They're sort of upside down bowls with runoff areas, everything's shaved down. So you're gonna get some spin on these probably if you hit it in the fairway and it's soft as it could be. We'll see. This is a week away. We'll see what the weather really brings and what the course set up and how soft it is. We'll see in the next week. But you're gonna miss some greens. So you're going to need some decent short game. Also, I heard the bunkering here is very, very tough. Like a true penalty. Every time you hit into the buckets of sand saves, it could be something to look at that we normally don't look at on a week in, week out basis.
Yeah, based on the redesign, Ben, it looks like these bunkers are going to be super penal. And so basically Viktor Hovland, unless you hit all 72 greens in regulation, I guess we just cross him off right away.
Yeah, tough scene. What about, does Morikawa follow? Because he actually might hit every green because he's that good with his irons, and then he may putt off the green and have to chip, and then he just has to leave because the short game for some of these guys, you're definitely going to put tremendous pressure on your irons because like Kenny said, this is no joke. This is not, oh, I missed the green. It's an up and down for an 8-footer. If you don't know what you're doing, you have no chance to recover.
Looking at the past 36 rounds and the best players out of the sand, and not to listen, a lot of this depends on your lie, what the conditions are that day, whatever it may be, but just overall, here are your best players in the field currently at the PGA Championship, according to FantasyNational.com. Again, /Mayo, get that 20% off, make it $8 for the week. probably going to want to play Showdown. You're probably going to want the stats and generate lineups pretty easily. Recommend that you go do that. Great for the head-to-heads as well, if that's where you want to bet in-game. Kuchar, Ben Griffin, Siwoo, Mav McNeely, and Justin Rose are the top 5. You also have Jason Day, Spieth, Reed still actually qualifies up there. Gooch and Finau and Kirk are all up there of the top-end guys. Theegala, oh my God, Adrian Moronk, top 20. Good for him. Denny McCarthy, Justin Thomas, Sungjae Im, Wyndham Clark, Windy C, Matt Fitzpatrick. The best guys that we consider to be good who are at the bottom of this, we got Aaron Wise, Dustin Johnson, Zach Johnson, Mito Pereira, Kenny Pigman. Apparently he's in the field. Did not realize that. Keegan, Harris English, Bryson, Davis Riley. Cantlay has been pretty bad out of the bunkers as well. You have Victor, you have Connors, you have Morikawa. So all the names that you would probably recognize as being terrible out of the sand, confirmed are terrible out of the sand by the numbers. So I want to go player by player, break all of this down, and we'll start at the very top. The betting favorite for the PGA Championship at the moment, because we are recording this before the conclusion of the Byron Nelson. So if Scottie Scheffler wins, he's probably the co-favorite or the favorite coming in. But it's Jon Rahm. At the moment, he is plus 750 at DraftKings Sportsbook. At the moment, we do not know his DraftKings price as of now, but we're going to theorize that these are going to be basically the order of the DraftKings pricing going in. He won at the Masters. He's won a bunch of times already this season. Kenny, let's start with you. We're going to try to probably talk about the big 3, or maybe it's just the big 2 at the moment because Rory is struggling. But if you have to go to the top of the board, would it be Rahm over Scottie and Rory?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have Rahm over both of them. I mean, we're recording this on Thursday, and so you saw Scheffler go out and do 6 under after 6 holes, and then immediately lose like 4 strokes on the greens in the next 7 holes. That putter is just. I'm worried about it if he does well. Of course, good for him, and he's going to win. But Rahm is just the complete game. I mean, around the green, he's great. He's long, avoids bogeys, long irons, well above average. I mean, he's the guy. He should be the favorite. If you just want to bet him at plus 750, I'm not going to tell you no. And it definitely should be 2 because Rory, it's just not there right now. I mean, he's lost strokes in 3 straight with his approaches in 3 straight events. The last time that happened was 2010, his rookie year. Now, granted, the next time out he won Wells Fargo, so but I mean, I don't know if that could be done again by him just the way he's playing, and he hasn't won a major in 10 years. It's the big 2, it's not the big 3 for me.
What do you make of Rahm versus Scottie then? Because I mean, Ben, we know you're going to take Rory. You take Rory every single time. He never wins. But let's just talk about these 2 in particular at the moment. I like Rahm better than Scheffler as well, and that's not a knock against Scheffler, but I think it breaks down to what Kenny said. Like, if I need someone to make a 5-foot putt, I'm going to think it's Jon Rahm, not Scottie Scheffler right now.
It's hard to argue with that. I mean, the only question that we're all going to be balancing is, does everybody think that? Because we all seem to agree. Is everybody going to agree? Is Jon Rahm going to be 4 times the ownership of Scottie Scheffler or something like that? That's a big question, because if it's not, Jon Rahm's complete game, and you guys summed it up. What's there to say? He can, any conditions, I don't think it bumps him down. Any style, I don't think it matters course-wise. The guy has everything you need. So clear favorite to me, should be the favorite, and he's my preferred play unless the field says something very crazy in terms of the ownership.
Let's go to Scottie Scheffler then, who we have at number 2 here. He's the only other sub 10-1 player at the moment on DraftKings Sportsbook. He's coming in at plus 800, so 8-1 at the moment. He's playing at the Byron Nelson, so he skipped an elevated event at the Wells Fargo to go play in Texas. He's a Texas guy. By the numbers, tee to green, he's the man. And he's won enough this year that's okay. The one thing that I will throw out is, of the wins and the top performances that he's had in his career, Ben, Augusta, notwithstanding, he did win there, and he was just in the middle of a heater. But other than that, bent grass really hasn't been his friend. And
I guess that's, I don't know, maybe a little surprising to me, just being a Texas guy, a Longhorn and whatnot, but it hasn't. And I think it's more pertinent to me. Like, when you have a great putter, I don't think surface is overly important because they're a great putter. But when you struggle, it's like, wow, this could put even more pressure on the one area where Scottie Scheffler isn't an elite player. And I don't think that that's great because, again, early in a tournament, he's going to have some of these 6-8 footers. You miss a couple, you start falling behind guys like Rahm. It becomes incredibly difficult, even for someone as good as Scottie Scheffler.
Kenny, when we break it down with Scottie, obviously tee to green is going to be a huge factor here. And if this ends up becoming a place where you need to hack it out of the rough, and I don't know, you need, I want to say Spiethian qualities, but it just seems like Scheffler's the better version of Spieth.
Yeah, if he's in trouble, he finds a way to get out of it. We saw it, a couple months ago in his last win. I mean, he can be wherever, and he just finds a way to hit these incredible recovery shots from wherever the hell he is. That's definitely something about him. But I mean, the putting is really a worry, because the thing is, a year ago, he would make everything from 5 to 8 feet, and now it seems like he's struggling. And when you see such a drastic turn in putting like that, to me, it just screams mental. And that's the hardest thing to get over. Especially if you're grinding over a 7-foot putt, like 5 or 6, 7 to 8 foot putts around for par, and you're not feeling your putter, that could lead to some bad scores.
Oh, most definitely. And even to go back and look at his run when he won in Phoenix last year and kicked off the 4 wins, 6.5 on the green, 4.3 on the green. He had a great putting stretch for about 3 months. And then we kind of forget that he didn't win again until Phoenix this year, mainly because it's not that the putter was, listen, he wasn't Luke List out on the green. He wasn't losing 8 strokes per round, but he wasn't gaining enough to put himself back in contention to take advantage of the seriously good tee to green performances that he was putting up. Now, he did that at the Players this year. He didn't putt well with Players. He putted average, and that was well enough to dominate everyone because the tee to green was so good. Although at a course like this, I think it's going to be a little bit different, that if he's not going to get up there and gain, let's say even 2.5, something very realistic that's not outstanding, to be 30th in the field in putting, unless he's in that tier, maybe second, maybe third, sure, but you can almost pencil in Rahm for one of those great performances, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Rahm, I mean, like Ben said, I mean, you trust his putter more. I mean, that's just the way it comes down. Both the ball striking is amazing for both those guys. They drive it well. They good approaches. Now, Rahm probably I mean, they're both good around the green too. Both top 15 in this field in the last 50 rounds. I mean, they got the whole tee to green thing down. It's pretty even when it comes down to that. It's just Rahm's just a superior putter, more consistent as well here recently. And that's the thing. You see sort of Scottie struggling over these 5 to 8 footers that we just seen him make continuously, over the past, prior to these last 3 or 4 months. The year before, he just made all of them. And now, it's not like Willie Z territory, but you could tell that he's not where he was.
Ben, is Scottie Scheffler the best version of Team No Putt we can find?
Yeah, I mean, God, what a team, because Team No Putt. So I guess if you're going strictly Team No Putt, probably Morikawa is weird because he's Team No Putt and he's on the Griot team where you can't putt or chip or do anything around the green. And that's such a double whammy, because like a guy like Scheffler, even at the Players, you referenced it, he didn't need to putt well. He gained 1 million strokes around the green. He was chipping in, doing whatever he wanted like that. When you don't have either, it's really tough. So Morikawa's honorable mention, but yeah, I think Scheffler does belong on the A team of Team No Putt.
Obviously, a lot of this is going to depend on what the pricing is and how we gauge the ownership as the week goes along. And Tambo and I will have that full report the Wednesday, the day before actual tee-off, when we have more information. Right now, we're completely in the dark on where the pricing is going to be and where the ownership is going to go. But what would you guess, Ben, is the split between, let's call them the top 3, because I do think that they're going to be priced that way, with Rahm and Scheffler a little bit above Rory, but Rory kind of in a little middle land in between everyone else. Do you really think it's going to be like Rahm twice as much as Scheffler, or do you think they'll be about even?
I think if Scheffler wins or something at Byron Nelson, that would change it. But I think Rahm will have a pretty healthy advantage ownership wise over Scheffler. It's hard to imagine a lot of people basically, there's a lot of people who come in just for these events. The last time they played, some of them, Jon Rahm was doing serious work at Augusta, and I think that sticks with him. And he's the first click in for a lot of casual people, and that's not wrong. Just think it's the way it is.
Kenny, Rory McIlroy is up next. He is 10-1 to win. I think we're going to see his odds drift a little bit. There's always the talk about he and his wife were hanging out at Oak Hill during the pandemic, playing a lot of rounds, very familiar with the area, but the game is not good at the moment. Dude dominates Quail Hollow. Not this time around. Guy's been great at the Masters. Not this time around. He's won the Players in the past. Not this time around. What do you think his ownership is going to be here? Because he's clearly going to be the least popular of these three. But do you think that will make the Ben Rasas of the world just say, you know what? 100% Rory. Got to play the ownership advantage.
Yeah, it's not like we're going to see him in single digits. You know, he's still going to be 12 to 16%. Maybe even 18%, something like that, if he catches some wind. I mean, the thing is, there are pros about Rory this week. I mean, like you said, he has experience with the course. If the conditions are soft, you know, he won the Congressional pops up to mind, where he went and just destroyed everyone on a long, hard, soft course. Hopefully people think like that because I'm going to be fading him. Now the cons, of course, are going to be what I spoke of before, but also the fact that, you know, when you look at his wins over his years, I think he only has like one win where the winning score was -12 or worse. Like every single one of his wins are minus in the teens or higher. Maybe I don't quote me on that, but it's a very low percentage of his wins that are, you know, that are -12 or worse scoring. And you got to expect, you know, -6 to -11, somewhere around there, maybe even -12 gets this week done. I got to do a little bit more. We got to see a little bit more about the course, see how soft these greens are. But I mean, you know, that's another notch against him. And the guy can he win another major? I mean, Jesus, it's been 10 years. The talent he has, it's got to be in his head, right?
I got to think so as well, and just maybe the pressure building up to it, and the fact that he's been the ambassador for the PGA Tour. They ran him into the ground last year after all of the LIV news came out. He played every single event to try to keep the momentum going for the PGA Tour, and it feels like it's starting to take its toll on him at the moment. So, you know, he skips one of the elevated events at the Heritage. He skipped the one at the beginning of the year. I don't think that they care so much about that, but it just seems like he's kind of mentally exhausted. However, Ben, depressed ownership Rory for you. Mr. I always play Rory McIlroy. Are you still going to do it?
I'm gonna hedge it a little. Obviously, if he's flirting with like 10%, yes, I will gladly get over the field. But I do want to just, even though I'm beyond gone with this, I do want to look objectively. He's had a couple of stretches where he's really lost it for a little while, and he got to Quail Hollow and he turned it on out of seemingly nowhere and won that event. And he had that opportunity. He played like garbage. Now it's a couple rounds of golf. It's not the worst thing, but I'm more concerned with a 47th at Wells Fargo than I am, honestly, at the Masters where it got away from him. I thought if he came back and just gave a decent performance at Quail Hollow, which is his playground, I'd say, okay, it was a bad result. He took some time. He's back. He's gearing up. He's going to a course he likes. I'm pretty freaked out. It wasn't a putting issue. It was just he just wasn't playing good golf. So he's still Rory. I don't care what anyone says. Rory still has it. He can bring the A game, but he's not right now with Scheffler and Rahm. He's just not. And I don't know how if I'm not saying it, then no one can, because I've held on to Rory for longer than anyone at this point.
I have Xander up next. I don't know if he's going to be fourth in the pricing, but he'll be in that mix of the next, three guys on the board. He's playing some immaculate golf coming in. A second at Wells Fargo, a fourth at the RBC Heritage, both elevated events. Just a string of fantastic golf. And we knew that his U.S. Open track record for years was really good. And over the past, 5-6 years or so, the PGA Championship has become not quite as difficult as the U.S. Open, but far more difficult than it had been in the past. And I think that they're really trying to elevate this. They don't want it to just be the fourth major anymore. They want to make it a true test. And I think that these conditions set up really well for Xander. Weirdly enough, I never get on Xander, Ben, but I think he's going to be one of my core guys this week.
Well, you know me, I never get Xander right. And even though, of course, I bet him at Wells Fargo, which didn't work out, I played him at Wells Fargo, and he's starting to connect it all. So off the tee, I never worried about Xander, but lately that was the detriment. And now he's turned it on there. The rest of his game is on fire. So what's there not to like? Good in total driving normally. has all the shots. I think it'll lend himself to this type of course. Xander's going to be a buy for me, and that scares me because I legitimately never get him right. But of some of these other guys that we're going to get to in a second, I think Xander has the most well-rounded game of this next tier that we're going to discuss.
So, Kenny, I know you always do your cash game cornerstones. It feels like Xander would be. You said you had 3 of them locked in already. Is Xander one of them?
He's one of them. Definitely just an all-around type game that he has, and he's sneaky long. Around the green better than average, avoids a lot of bogeys. Of course, his iron play very, very strong, good putter. He's playing well, a bunch of top 10 finishes here in his last few outings. You got to think that like the PGA Championship, a lot of the times we've seen potential stars break out and get there first. Major here, I like him at 20-1. He's going to be one of my bets. He's going to be one of my cash game cornerstones. I'm penciling him in at 96, 9,700, somewhere around there in that mid 9K range. I think I'll have 3 guys in that range in my cash game cornerstones. We'll see. Of course, the price is not out. If DK does something wild, I could have to adjust. But for right now, he's in there. He's going to be one of my cornerstones. He's just playing too well. I think a breakout is coming for him soon. Him and another guy that I got, we could talk about here in a few minutes.
Well, I think I almost know who that's going to be. But, Ben, I think that Xander's going to be above 10K.
So do you think that is that saying that you'll think there's going to be 4 north of 10?
Maybe 5. Actually,
maybe 5.
At a major, maybe not. I could see Xander being 10-1 on the dot.
I could see that. I mean, I'd be absolutely floored if he was under 9,600. I think that would be as basically low as it could go, and I'd be pretty stunned if he was above 10-2. What? It's somewhere in there. Yeah.
Well, I think that it's funny, the optics of what your price is going to be. Let's say it is the difference between 10-1 and 9-7. How much do you think that affects his ownership? Let's say he's closer to Rory than Rory is to the Scheffler and Rahm range. I think that Xander's going to be popular, but do you think he's popular as a first man in or a second man in? Or do you think that's all because of pricing?
I think a lot of it's due to pricing. So if he's north of 10, I would say the correlation between Rahm and Xander will be a lot lower. People are not going to click Rahm and then click Xander and then skip maybe the next 15 to 20 golfers, in my opinion. But if he's 9,600, now it's I'm paying 11K, say, for the top guy, and then I'll add 96 and I'm fine. I can target the upper 8s. I think that really does make a difference with a guy like Scheffler, not to spoil Cantlay. Those are the type of players I think will be attachments to the big 2.
Justin Thomas is up next, the defending PGA champion, the 2-time PGA champion. I bet on Justin Thomas at Wells Fargo. I thought it was going really well, Kenny. And then I started watching Justin Thomas. And he ended up gaining 1.4 strokes putting for the week. And he must have made 3 70-foot putts that I just wasn't paying attention to, because every time he had a birdie putt within 10 feet, he missed it. And this has just been happening for 5 months now.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, his ball striking that whole time has still been great.
Yeah.
If you look over, I mean, he's been gaining strokes with his approaches and his driver almost every event since the Genesis, since the California swing. And he didn't even lose that much then. The thing is, soft conditions. I forget where I heard this from. I think it might have been Steve Bamford. But he said that when it comes out to soft condition golf courses, he's number 1 in strokes gained tee to green.
But do we? Why do we think it's going to be super soft? I looked at the forecast. I mean, there looks like there might be a little bit of rain on Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, one of those days, but not a extreme amount. I live in a wetter condition right now, and even our courses are firming up pretty quickly, and there's sub air at Oak Hill. I don't think it's gonna I don't think it's gonna be burnt out.
Is there sub air?
Yeah, there is.
I heard there wasn't. There is.
I thought that was a part of the renovation that they put in the sub air. Maybe it's only.
I know
the
they
greens.
put a new drainage system.
I
don't know. I've heard.
I knew you were going to say it. I knew there would be blood would be immediately referenced.
I heard. I don't know where I heard it from. I heard they don't have sub air, but I mean, I don't quote me on that. It's just one thing that I might have read out of a billion. It could be bullshit. It's something I have to check out. But I mean, the thing is, it's supposed to rain Monday, it's supposed to rain Wednesday, and it's supposed to rain Friday, is what I saw. Again, it's a week out, so I mean, all that can change. I mean, who knows exactly? And the thing is, we haven't seen this course before. We don't know how the conditions can take the rain. I mean, it's something we're gonna have to pay attention to as the week goes on. I'm expecting it to be soft. That's another reason why you target longer guys, because you're not going to get a rollout. How lush it is, because they've gotten a ton of rain. I think like 7 inches in the last 3 months is what I've heard. So to me, it sounds like it's going to be a wet course. Again, we don't know. We'll have to see. If it's hard and firm, okay, well, then maybe that changes something.
Yeah, I think hard and firm. I think it's probably a middle area is really what I was grasping at, where I don't think it's going to be like super soft conditions. But again, I think it's going to be Southern Hills where you can, just kind of like hit a low putter off the tee and it's going to roll out 300 yards. It's going to be somewhere in between one of those two things. Now, maybe if we get a bunch of rain on Wednesday night, it softens up the course. Also something to look at, because I went back to the PGA Championships, Ben, for first round leaders type stuff and showdown type stuff. Just play the guys in the afternoon. Because I played a few rounds in the morning and a few rounds in the afternoon, and basically similar conditions outside of the temperature, and the ball goes like 25, 30 yards longer in the afternoon when it's actually reasonable out, not freezing.
Again, these little things that makes all the difference for showdown in particular, where you need to splice stuff like that off. I don't know what to do with JT, honestly, because he's with Scheffler, team no putt. Like, he's striking it well enough to win. And the results haven't been horrible, but like, when you strike it that well, you should be peppering the first page of the leaderboard as good as he is around the green and whatnot. And he's been held back, but at the same time, if you can do that and you're repeating this tee to green, you give yourself a lot of chances. All it takes is a couple of putts to roll in, and JT once again is in the hunt at the PGA.
It's funny. Do you have a prediction for the winning score, Kenny?
I was thinking, I'm not as a wide prediction, but I mean, maybe -8 to -12, something like that is usually like the target zone for the PGA Championship. They're not trying to shoot even par, but I mean, I've heard some people say it's going to be closer to even. I don't know. It's just something. I would say -8 to -12 it would be my guess.
That would be the range that I'd be targeting too, Ben. Do you think anything differently?
No, I think it's reasonable. I think there's a chance. Maybe this is just a bias on my part. I love to see guys like in the torture chamber, and I always say, oh my God, this is going to be insane. And then like Scott Piercy shoots 64 on the first day, and I'm like, well, not as insane as I thought. So I think the winning score is definitely, barring crazy conditions, live to push better than 10 under. A couple of these guys with the talent they have and the length, it's hard to stop them unless they make it like unrealistically difficult. So yeah, I think in that range is pretty realistic, but I expect guys to play well still.
And if that's going to be the range, then I think that we need to take Justin Thomas a little bit more seriously, because that feels like, even with, and maybe Scheffler as well, based on like the team no putt stuff that we were talking about, because it doesn't really seem to make a difference where Thomas plays these days. That's just where he's finishing, like -5 to -10. That's going to be his score regardless of the course.
I get that logic.
Yeah.
So, do you think that he'll be popular, Ben? Because I don't.
So it's always difficult with majors, because not every, we're talking about great players for a while. They can't all be popular. So I think that he's pretty live to be squeezed a little bit towards the bottom of what I would anticipate is the 9K range. Maybe if he's 8,900, that would change things. Then I think he would be popular. But I expect him to be in the low 9s. Yeah. And I don't think he'll be overly popular.
Of the guys that we've talked about so far, and again, this is going to be pricing dependent, but if everything just kind of remains true and to average of what we've seen, Rahm's going to be super popular, Scheffler is going to be popular, Rory's going to be under that. Xander is going to be very popular. I think that Thomas will be like average to a little bit lower, and then we get Jordan Spieth. And Jordan Spieth is not going to be very highly owned whatsoever. He has this wrist injury. He withdrew from the Byron Nelson. We don't actually know anything about it, Kenny, except for this is his hometown event that he decided to skip to get ready for the PGA Championship. But as someone who was highly invested in DraftKings on Jordan Spieth at the Wells Fargo, things were going great at the Wells Fargo until the 18th hole on Thursday. He went double water, loves getting wet, And then I assume he hurt his wrist doing something there because he was a disaster the next day. And now all of a sudden he's not playing anymore. So Spieth, I want to see him win the PGA Championship because I want to see him get the Grand Slam. I think golf is better when Jordan Spieth is good, but this terrifies me at what you know is going to be an elevated price.
Yeah, I mean, you figure in mid-nines. The thing is, I mean, it could be someone worth a jump on. I mean, who's going to be more popular, JT or Jordan? I mean, with this thing about his wrist, Jordan could be one of the lowest owned in the 9K range. I mean, you got to think who else is going to be there? Finau, Cantlay, Koepka, Xander. You know, those are all four guys that more than likely people are going to play ahead of both JT and Jordan Spieth. If you look at the ownership. So those two guys in the 9K range could be someone to look at in a game theory perspective. Now, if we're just looking at real golf, the guy's been playing really well too. You know, I mean, prior to that double waterfall you were talking about, he was up there in the leaderboard, and he's been poaching top fives, top tens all year, runner ups. Coming in and playoff losses. You know, so his game is almost there. The form coming in is fine. He said he was fatigued and finished second that week or something like that. I think if I remember correctly. I mean, who knows what to believe when it comes to injuries and fatigue and stuff like that. I mean, it's so hard to judge. There's no injury report, so we're just gonna have to guess. And make an educated guess. And personally, I think he just wanted the week off. I mean, I don't know. There was no really need for him to play here, except he likes the course. It's in his hometown. Maybe it was true because he doesn't want to miss these events. Jordan doesn't seem like the guy who would just boot an event because it doesn't feel like it, especially in his hometown. So maybe he really is hurt. Who knows? But if you can get him at like 9%, shit, with 20%, just double him up, you'd be good to go.
Ben, I don't think I can, unless I hear something really positive about how he's feeling, I just can't do it.
Yeah, this is one of these situations, like it's all bizarro world thinking, at least on my part. I hope Spieth is like wildly overpriced and we don't get news, and then I will play him because no one, if you're going to do it and he's hurt, it doesn't matter if he's 9,900, 8,900 or 7,900, you're in huge trouble. But with the ownership, it will matter if he's okay. And so I'm saying, let me full leverage if I do it. I hope Spieth is like in the upper nines with like Xander. No one will go to him. Give me 15% on 6.5% Spieth. I'll take that every day, flying blind.
Well, would you rather go to Jordan Spieth, who's potentially injured, or Collin Morikawa, who, as we've alluded to, can't chip or putt?
Yeah, I mean, he's injured in different. I don't know what is going on with his.
He chunked that shot at Tournament of Champions, and he's been ruined around he was starting to get it together a little bit on the greens, around the greens. It's just been abysmal ever since. However, the ball striking is still really good.
It's great, but how far can that carry? I mean, there's a difference between being weak in these areas and like borderline non-competitive. And he's honestly pushing that. Like this is, you mentioned Luke List. This is like Luke List style. I would know. I play these guys like Griot and Jaeger. Don't even get me started with him, but I don't know. I'm concerned. I would rather play a lot of guys before I play Morikawa. You're drawing to elite iron play, and he's the best iron player I've seen, but man, it's tough when you can't do either.
I mean, I'm Team Morikawa through and through, Kenny, but I'm just hoping he sucks here so I can bet him at the U.S. Open in L.A.
Yeah, I mean, the worry I have about him is, he came on so strong when he first got out on the tour, winning events, winning 2 majors. You sort of get that in your head, like that should happen all the time. And now he's going through the slump where he hasn't won in over a year. They could be getting into his head a little bit. I mean, we saw him just basically choke away the Tournament of Champions. I know both me and you have both had him outright, and that just started my year off great, this season. So I'm worried about it. But the thing is, he's still, having good finishes here and there. But to win an event, your first event in over a year, to be a major for a guy that young, coming off of what he did when he was even younger, and then just to have that mental aspect where you're like, okay, well, shit, I do this. I should be able to do this every week. What the fuck is wrong with me? That's what would be going in my head. I don't know. I can't speak on him, but there's a chance that that's what's going on in his head too. And if you're not right mentally when it comes down to it, you're not going to be able to make it in these types of events.
Yeah, it's funny because you can see the path, Ben, to him winning this event. And he's played well in majors, even when he hasn't had his game. Like even last year, he didn't have a win, but he played really well at all of the majors outside of the Open Championship, I believe. But I think he was top 5 at the Masters. I think he was top 10 at the PGA Championship and top 5 at the US Open. Like, it's really strange that the harder the conditions, somehow is that because the courses are harder and chipping is just more difficult for everyone, so it neutralizes him a little bit?
I think so, because Hovland has that too at times where I'm like, how is this possible that he's not thriving, but he's not separating himself in a bad way? It's almost like when you get on crazy greens with putting and stuff, and it's just like, all right, everyone is struggling to some extent, and it doesn't separate it that big. So the thing with Morikawa, though, you just know he has to, and he's like I said, he's the best, but his irons can't ever take a break, because if they do, even for a little while, a little stretch, it's unrealistic to think that he can hold it together. That's always the big concern in these tough conditions, because what if you get wacky wind? What if you just get a bad 9 holes? Can he sustain that? That's a big, big ask.
One of the problems that I'm going to have with Morikawa here is, yes, the landing areas are super thin. I think they're like 25 yards across on the fairways before you get into the first cut. And the first cut is going to be pretty deep. At his peak, if he was being peak Morikawa at the moment, he's at least one of the elite guys who actually hits, I wouldn't say every fairway, but amongst the elite players, he hits more fairways than almost anyone else, which would be a huge advantage at Oak Hill in 2013. I just don't think it's going to be that big of a factor this time, Kenny.
Yeah, I mean, people are comparing it to Winged Foot already, and we saw what happened there with Bryson and Wolf just pounding it out there and having a short iron in because people are going to miss these fairways. I mean, if he hits like 80% of the fairways, well, then, yeah, he's got a chance, but that's probably what he has to do. And the thing is, like, he's on the shorter side. He's not, he can still give it a poke out there, but he's definitely on the shorter side off the tee. And so, he's going to be using his long irons, and no one's really, if you hit 60% of your, from 200 plus onto the green, you're doing something right, and that leaves another 40% where you have to get it up and down. So even if he hits these fairways, it could still be tough, especially the way the greens are shaped now, and the way they're talking about how the way they redid these greens, they can put a lot of pin positions near edges and stuff like that. I mean, greens are going to be missed no matter what. He's going to have to hit 80% of his fairways and 70% of his greens, probably, if his short game is going to continue to be as poor as it is.
I don't know who I've become, Ben, but Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele, might go with the public here and just start my teams with those two guys.
Hey, I respect it. I've given up, like I said. Maybe the Twitter bullying has gotten to me. Like I want to be part of the screenshot gang when Patrick Cantlay wins with like 78% ownership. Sure, why not? Because he checks all the boxes. Got a new caddy, obviously got the experience. Everything is good. What's there to say? I think he's going to be a very popular play, and for balanced builds, starting with a guy like Cantlay is going to make a lot of sense this week.
Yeah, we get very few majors on pure bent at this time of year, Kenny. I know it is in the Northeast, but I mean, that's where he does his best work on the greens. He's won Memorial twice. He most definitely has the distance. We talked about the sand stuff, and recently that's been a problem, but historically it was a problem. He fixed it, and now it's starting to become a little bit of a problem again. So maybe that's a pushback that you could have on Patrick Cantlay of why he's not going to get this done. But I mean, I don't want to root for him. He's the worst guy in the world to watch on my TV, but I do think he has a legit chance of winning.
Yeah, again, in the same mold of Xander or Finau, another breakout candidate to finally win a major. I mean, he's definitely live. There's no doubt in my mind when it comes to him off the tee. I mean, he's sort of like a mini Rahm where he could still hit it long and it's fairly accurate as well, which can be, the biggest thing that you need on this course. And his iron game, of course, is better than most. He's not as elite as a Morikawa or some JT or some of these guys, but he's still very, very good with his iron play. And you look at him, I guess the worry that you might have with him is long irons. He's going to, he's with the par 3 and par 5s. There's only 2 of them. I don't even know if you're going to be able to reach them. They're both like 615, one's like 650 or something like that. So probably 3 shots, but you're gonna have three par threes that are over 200 yards. He's really struggling on those long irons. That's something to look at. But I mean, other than that, everything else about his game screams major winner, future major winner.
To look at the best players from beyond 200 yards in proximity over the last 36 rounds, Rahm, Woodland, Hoagie, Bryson still sneaks in there from historic stats, and Finau are the top 5. Cantlay, Varner, Svensson, Shezrevi, Mito, Pereira, and then Dean, Burmista, Mista Lady. Those are the guys, so take from that what you will. Let's have some fun. Brooks Koepka, Ben. Yes?
And now it gets...
Yes?
I mean, I've already sold my soul to say that Xander's in play and Cantlay. So what's the difference now? Sure, give me Brooks too. It's tough because I think with the LIV guys, too much will be made of what they did at Augusta, good or bad. Like, these are the good LIV guys. These are the guys that don't have it anymore. And of course, Brooks, good LIV guy. I know he didn't finish like we maybe thought he would, but he still showed a very, very good 72 holes. So I have a feeling he's going to be in play for a lot of people. I'd put him behind Cantlay and I'd put him behind Xander, but I would put him ahead of, I think, Morikawa and the Spieth types just on form alone.
I would as well. So his lead-up form, and we don't know what has happened at LIV Tulsa this week because that hasn't even started yet as we're recording this, so who knows. But he won the week before the Masters on LIV, then he came second at Augusta, then he was 11th and 3rd through the Australia and I want to say Singapore swing of LIV. So he comes in very good form, Kenny, but I think that Ben makes an interesting point that I think that LIV guys will be either underrated or overrated based on what they did at Augusta. And I remember talking to Feinberg about this at the time, is that out of all the majors, we talk about how course history matters the most at Augusta National. And all of the LIV guys that were in the Masters were technically, good course history guys. There's the reason that they were still allowed to play at Augusta. So maybe that is super overhyped. Brooks would be the one guy that I probably wouldn't have any qualms going to because he's just built for this type of course.
I don't think it's overhyped with Brooks. Because the thing about Brooks, even when he was on the PGA Tour, he didn't give 2 fucks about the PGA Tour. He just wanted to go out and win majors. His health, gave out. It wasn't for a couple of years. He had those issues and he just couldn't perform. He's healthy. He's back mentally. The majors are what he plays for. I'm in on him. He would be my second cash game cornerstone. I have penciled in mid 9Ks. The upside is there. The floor is fine. He's going to make the cut. He's going to, this is what he wants to do. He wants to be remembered for majors. He's going to bring his A game to this. And, if you, in the past, we always thought that, but because of injury or whatever else, the form just hasn't been there the last 3 years prior to, Augusta. Now he's got the form back. He's won a couple of events there, played well at Augusta. I'm in big time cash. I think he's above Cantlay in my board. Him and Xander are neck and neck, in my opinion, in that 9K range is 2 of the top guys that I'm going to play. And there's one other guy that we'll talk about here soon that's going to be the third.
Is it Cameron Smith, who, after a struggle to begin the year at LIV, did not perform all that well at the Masters, has started to turn it around on the LIV Tour a little bit? He was 3rd in Australia. He was 6th the week after that. We'll see how he finishes again in Tulsa. But Ben, it just feels like no one's going to use him this time around. And this is the spot where I do want to use him.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly not going to be at the top of people's lists. He always is a difficult evaluation because if you're just looking at off the tee metrics for everyone that we've discussed, there's all of them, and then there's Cameron Smith. Now, he does some other things to make up for that, mostly just getting lucky. But I'm not going to do it. I never get to him, and that streak, I still have some dignity left. I'm not going to play Cam Smith, no.
Will you play Cam Smith, Kenny? Because I want to, and I think that he'll be single-digit ownership.
Yeah, I mean, single-digit ownership, if I can get 20% of them, I might throw him in there. If I'm going to be double the field, triple the field at 20%, it's something to think about just because of a leverage play. If you're just going based on numbers and stats, like you said, Ben. I mean, off the tee, it looks like, he's short and he's not very accurate, and that's not the best combo to have at a place like this. But he just finds a way usually, especially because of how good his short game is and how good of a putter he is, and his iron game is strong. So it depends on ownership for me. If he's like 5%, yeah. Give me some, just like you had with Rory earlier, Ben. I mean, yeah, if he's 5-6%, give me like 15, 20, and I could be 2 or 3 times the field. I'm in.
He's currently at DraftKings Sportsbook 22-1. Ben, what do you think when they reset the odds on Monday he actually comes in at? Because I'm thinking like 35-40, unless he wins in Tulsa.
Yeah, I was thinking like, mid to lower 30s. Like he's not going to be this, that's clear. And he's only going to drift unless, like you said, he wins Tulsa, of course, which who knows. But yeah, Cam Smith, he's probably going to be that type of like milli maker leverage spot that if you spike it, you've really done some damage because he's not going to be popular.
Dustin Johnson, also unlikely to be popular. He has the worst form of all, outside of Bryson, I suppose, of all of the top-end LIV guys. He was 48th at the Masters. He was 10th in Australia. He was 23rd in Singapore. I mean, historically speaking, Dustin's game, a lot like, they have very similar games, obviously, but is just so conducive to these longer, narrow fairway tracks in the Northeast. I remember when Scottie Scheffler kind of broke onto the scene in the FedEx Cup playoffs and shot a 59. And I believe Dustin beat him by 11 strokes that week in the Northeast. And just we've seen him be competitive at all of these. On paper, I think if you're looking for a leverage play, Ben, that Dustin over Cam Smith makes the most sense. But it does seem like Cam Smith's form is getting a little bit better, where I think that Dustin just doesn't care about golf anymore.
Possible. I mean, that's really the only question I have. Everything historically, DJ in this course, I think is great. I think the ownership will be very, very good. You just might not have it anymore. And that's an unquantifiable unknown. Don't know what to say. He's intriguing up to a point, but he legitimately has shown next to nothing. And we're not going to get much information between now and then. So you kind of have to fly blind if you still believe he can do it.
He was 8th at the 2013 PGA Championship, Kenny.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if I'm going to play him, but if I want to play devil's advocate, I mean, he was 8,800, 8,700 at the Masters. If he's like 8,400, 8,300, and he's your third guy in the lineup, I mean, that's something you might want to think about. I don't know if I'm going to go ahead and do that. But if the pricing come out and he's 8,200, I'm going to have to think about it. If he's like 9,200, then I'll probably pass. But at that price, he's the third guy in your lineup. He could be the fourth guy in your lineup if you're going super balanced. I mean, shit,
I guess so, but let's say he does come in on the lower end of the spectrum and he's in like the lower to mid 8s. Let's say 8,400 is a good example. That means that he's likely to be in the same range as Sungjae or Lowry or Fitzpatrick or Burns or Hideki. Are you playing him over any of those guys?
I don't know at this point in time. Probably not, but it just depends on the ownership of those guys that you're talking about as well. I like Hideki a lot. This week, Burns is usually not a go for me, especially in majors. And then I forget about the other names that you had because I have the worst short-term memory known to man. But it just depends on the ownership on the guys around him and also his ownership. I mean, if he's 6% again, I mean, it's just worth it to throw 20% of your lineups on there. It's not going to kill your MMEs if you're building 100, 150 lineups. I'd be able to 50 a week. It wouldn't even kill mine.
What do you make of it if he is in that lower range, Ben? Because at some point, you can't just play all of the lower-owned guys and think that's going to work out. Like, someone who people think is going to do well is going to do well.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. And I think it just becomes, you have to, or at least this is how I approach it. I separate my guys. Okay, we've talked about Spieth. Could be like crazy low-owned risk reward. DJ could be that. Cam Smith. We're going to get to plenty of those guys. I might want one or two of them in certain instances. Say I go very, very generic. And then there's going to be other teams where I'm like, I already made a stand. I started with Rory and I didn't use Cantlay or Finau or Xander, guys like that. Why would I go deep? Like, why would I push it to the limit even more? That seems too extreme. So I think it is a case-by-case basis. Certainly for me, guys like Fitzy and some of the other names down there, I think have a pretty good shot time in, time out to surpass a guy like DJ, all things equal.
Well, let's talk about Finau, because you mentioned him at the top of the popularity board. Kenny, I'm guessing this is your third cash game cornerstone.
Yeah, I said in the season preview pod that Rahm and Finau are going to win the first two majors. Rahm won Augusta, and now it's Finau's turn. I'm going to bet him. I'm going to play him. He's at this is his prime. He's won a shit ton of events in the last couple of years. He's ready to break out. He's ready to get this major in. This is an event where he could do it. He's well above average around the green. He's not long, but he's long enough. He's longer than most, when it comes down to it. And, of course, his iron play is there. His confidence is sky high. Give me all the Finau. Give me Finau in cash. Give me him 25-1. Give me all the Finau.
I think Finau and cash makes a lot of sense, Ben, but I don't really play any cash. And I just do worry that when you take a look at his, and this is going to sound like a really shitty thing, but his quality of win is really bad.
It is, but I think it's a reasonable case to say that was a prerequisite to breaking through. He needed to just win. I don't care where he was winning. Just start winning. He's learned how to close. I thought Mexico, even though it's not the most important thing, I thought that was a big step. Like, he played well enough to hold off a guy like Rahm. Will the pressure be ratcheted up here if that's the same thing? 100%. But it means something to me that he still did it. And I think Finau has now set the table to get it done not in Puerto Rico, in Houston, but in top-end events like this.
It's not like he's a slouch in these type of events either. He's won a playoff event. He's finished top 10 in all four majors in the same year. It's not like he shies away when it comes down to it. Yes, his wins are in shittier fields, but yeah, like you said, he held off Rahm, the best player in the world, going toe-to-toe in the final group, held him off and beat him. So I'm not worried about that narrative when it comes to Finau.
I'm thinking Xander, Cantlay, and Finau, the ones that we've talked about so far, are probably going to be, let's say, the balance build cornerstones, as Kenny kind of laid out. And I think that those three guys are going to be exceptionally popular this week. Ben, if you had to full fade one of them, who would it be?
It would be Xander.
Kenny?
Cantlay.
I think it's going to be Finau for me.
Oof, that's hard. I just for the record, I like all three. I know everyone does, but man, those are tough choices.
But I think that might be. Could you theoretically start your? Theoretically, yes, you could start your team with those three guys. That just doesn't seem like a very smart way to try to win a Millionaire Maker, Ben.
No, because even if you get it all right, good luck winning a 3v3 tournament against 5,000 other people. That's what you're left with. Even if you nail all three of them and they all play great, you and thousands of others now have to duke it out with Adrian Arnews and who else is down here? We got some real Wyatt Worthington II, of course. Like, good luck figuring out who to play down there.
I think Cam Young is going to be priced very similarly to Tony Finau, Ben. And do you think that there's going to be a residual resentment against Cam Young after being 98% owned at Wells Fargo and just being kind of mediocre?
Yeah, he rallied to make that cut and didn't do much else. So he could be, a guy, he's got that off the tee game that just is elite. Can't putt either. And it's funny, I don't view him in the same lens as like a Morikawa in terms of the struggles around the green, but maybe I should, because he really does struggle at times.
Yeah, and like it seems to compound when he's not chipping it well. It seems like his putting is also just as disastrous. When he's chipping well, it seems like he actually putts well, Kenny.
Yeah, I've seen him in the last couple of months that we've seen him play. It looked like there's been some flashes of good around the green play, especially at the match play. Watching all of his matches, it looked like he knew what he was doing around the greens instead of sometimes he just looks completely lost. I think one advantage, of course, the whole narrative, New York guy. But I think the softer the course plays, the more it will be beneficial to him, since he has that super high ball flight. The majority of his drives are, air yards. He's not like Niemann out there, who, you know, has 10 to 15% of his distance based on roll because of how much top spin he has on his drive, because of how low it is. You know, that high ball flight, putting it out there, you know, 300-yard carry in soft conditions will be a very, very beneficial to him. It's going to come down to a short game. And maybe he's comfortable in this area on this course. Comfortability is a big factor, especially when it comes to short game and putting. You know, it's a possibility that, you know, he's used to these types of greens. He's played this course dozens, hundreds of times, that maybe he's used to it. Maybe he's comfortable, and that could be a big advantage.
It's funny, Ben, because to take a look at him, he came second at the Open Championship, and then at another Donald Ross design, the Rocket Mortgage, which is a compilation of 2 Donald Ross courses put into one. He came second that week as well. Since the Rocket Mortgage last year, he has 3 top 10s. That's it.
Yeah, it's been underwhelming. And he's another guy, like, even to a lesser extent, I'm going to link it to Morikawa again. Like Morikawa with majors, he bursts on the scene and everyone's like, oh, Cam Young, like he needs to win right now. And then he takes a step back and it's like, what happened? The pressure mounts. It's just so difficult. And this guy's game is not as well-rounded as the other elite players. And I think we've seen that exposed a little bit. And it's probably going to happen again here. I don't particularly like Cam Young this week.
Interesting. I don't know what I want to do with him, because I think that he will play pretty well in the Northeast. He's from New York State. He's just going to be very familiar with the conditions.
Right by May.
Yeah, he's probably your neighbor for all I know.
Yeah, no, he is. I see him. Can't chip even here when he's practicing. It's no good. But
the one time you left the house in the last 6 months, you just saw
when I was
Young
recording that video, he was out there. Who knew?
I just do all of his prime skills and what he does really well, I think, do translate to this course. But I am worried that he's going to chip and putt himself out of this, or at least generate these opportunities and just not convert. And you're going to sit there and be like, why the fuck did I take this guy? It just feels like one of those circumstances where everything is lining up well. He's doing what you want him to do. And then you watch the result and you're like, of course he missed that 4-foot putt. That is exactly what I thought was going to happen. And it happened. I don't know why I'm surprised about this. He just tends to be one of those guys. He's going to get it together and all on the same page one of these weeks. I just don't know if this is going to be the one. So I'm still on the fence on him a little bit. Kenny, what do you feel about Viktor?
I mean, the ball striking is so good. And again, PGA Championship, it creates these stars, usually a first major type deal. Again, Viktor's short game seems like it's a little bit better. I've seen him make some pretty incredible shots. You know, maybe they're just individual shots that I've seen him when he plays, but then again, you know, 3 holes later, he'll skull one past the green. And then, of course, his bunker play isn't the greatest either. So that's the worry about him. Same mold as Morikawa, just a little bit longer off the tee, which could help. I'm iffy about him. I'm not sure. You know, he's borderline for me. If he's, you know, 10, 12%, you know, maybe it's something that I'll look at even harder. When it comes to Young and Hovland, I think Hovland's more ready than Young to take one of these down. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm not really sure if this is the event. We'll see. But if his ball striking is pristine, just like Morikawa, you know, he has a chance. I think he has a better chance than Morikawa, personally.
Last 3 events on bent grass greens, Ben. Viktor Hovland at the Masters. He did gain upwards of 4 strokes putting at the Masters, although it's that secret data, so you got to watch out for that one. Memorial last year, 6 strokes putting. Charles Schwab the week before that, 4 strokes putting. Those are his last 3 bent grass events. Because the putting has been kind of wishy-washy for him. It got really bad at the Heritage. You're going to have some bad weeks. That was a terrible week for him. The fact that he had to play all 4 rounds probably didn't help out with that either. But other than that, it's been like plus 1.5, minus 0.6, like just right around field average. And I think when people look at his stats a little bit, they're going to see the finish at Wells Fargo. A lot of people were on him at Wells Fargo, myself included. He came 40-30, had a really nice Saturday. But overall, he lost 1.6 strokes on approach. He lost 1.4 around the green. He lost on the greens. But most of that is attributed to one bad round, which was on Sunday, which is going to stick out in people's mind. I don't think that people are using Viktor. I kind of want to use him.
I tend to agree. I don't think it's overly bad. I certainly agree he's more ready than Cam Young. And that some of his problems, they're overarching, but they're masked at times where you see him say, okay, like this isn't great. But he knows how to navigate it, I think, a little better. Mostly I'm concerned not even with the putter. It's just the around the green game is pretty consistently a liability. And depending on what we get here, if it's really tough, I worry about if the greens in regulation are really low for everybody, how he survives a situation like that. But there's no doubting the off the tee game. There's no doubting the talent. There's no doubting he'll get a hole in one. So he has a lot of things going for him. It's just, I worry about the around the green.
Homa is up next. I mean, I bet him to win the U.S. Open, so I hope he wins the U.S. Open. Kenny, I don't have high hopes for Homa this week.
Yeah, no. I mean, in the stat model that I put up, he ranks very, very high. I just can't get on board with him. Just not that great at majors. He hasn't been playing that great here recently. He seems sort of, I call him like a poor man's Bubba Watson, where you play Homa at Homa courses. You know what I'm saying? Like those West Coast courses, Wells Fargo, stuff like that. And he didn't even finish very well. Did he even make the cut? I don't even remember.
Well, Wells Fargo, at the Wells Fargo, he was 8th.
Okay, so there you go. So you play Homa at Homa courses. Not sure this is one of his courses that you can get behind with. So yeah, there's no Homa for me.
Yeah, it felt like Homa left, I don't want to say 2 wins on the table, Ben, but between API and the Players, when he averaged over 7 strokes on approach throughout those 2 tournaments, and then for whatever reason lost the ability to putt despite being one of the better putters on the PGA Tour, it just kind of, it felt like he missed a window there to really pile it up. Rahm got those 2 lucky bounces against him at Riv, cost him that win. He had won the week before at Torrey. It just feels like, you ebb and flow in golf all the time. And it feels like he's just a little bit on the dip. Maybe he's coming out of it a little bit because he was 8th at Wells Fargo, did everything kind of well across the board. Nothing overly significant in any one category. Is very solid, which is the type of guy that you would want at a course like this. But I'm kind of with Kenny. Like, until he does something in a major, his best finish is a T13 at last year's PGA Championship. Maybe that's something, but I don't know. I think there are guys who are more ready to win in this range rather than Homa.
Yeah, I guess my first thought is, what is this range? Because I think his range of price could be higher or lower than at least my expectations. I assume he's in like the mid to lower 8K range, but if he's not, that could just change my narrative. I think if he is there, probably falls by the wayside. I'll probably just say, if he beats me, I have to kind of live with it, because you can't play everybody, and Homa's a good player, but I prefer a lot of other guys in the same outright range.
I would guess that Cam Young, Hovland, and Homa are all right around the same price.
Like mid 8s, mid to high 8s.
Yeah, 85, 86, 87, 88, somewhere in there. That'd be my guess anyway. Yeah. I don't know. Sungjae. Yeah. Kenny, Sungjae winner? We betting on him?
I'm so, like, why did he go to Korea this week? I don't understand. Like, why travel 16 hours and then come back? Didn't he do this last year and catch COVID and couldn't play? Isn't that what happened last year?
That is what happened last year.
I forgot about that.
Like he went to Korea, played this event, came back, and then wasn't allowed out of the country. They're like, you can't leave, Sungjae. Hopefully that doesn't happen this year. You think he's another guy who is on the verge. Again, he's not that long, but he makes up for it with stellar long iron play, short game, and putting. And so this could be somewhere where you could take a peek at him, because he's fairly accurate off the tee as well. But I just worry about 16 hours of jet lag. It's not like he played in London or something. He's halfway across the world, finishes for us Saturday night, flies back. I mean, that's just a lot, I think. I know it's the Korea Open. I know it's his home event, but at some point in time, you think that, he's never won a major before. Don't you think that would be more important than the Korea Open? Maybe not. Maybe he has sponsors obligations. Maybe the Korean mob wants him to go play, or they'll kill his parents. I don't know. I don't know the reason why his ass is over there. And there is a Korean mob. There is. A funny story. Okay. So we'll break into a little story here. When my father left our family, he borrowed about $100K from the local Korean mob. And then one day when my father bounced on him, we got a knock on the door, and it was these 2 Korean dudes with leather jackets and stuff like that. And it was me and my mother in the house, and you owe us $100,000. And we were like, what? And we knew who they were. We just said, okay. And so we ended up paying him off. It took me and my mother like 9 years to pay off that debt. But there really is a Korean mafia, and they will fuck you up.
Did you see the app for the Korean tour and how good it is?
I did. It looks incredible.
Like, where is this tech? Because you know the PGA Championship app is going to be the fucking worst.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, my people are good at that shit. I'll just hire some Koreans to build your fucking app. We can do it. Not me, because I'm like the whitest Korean you'll fucking know. But, get some people over there to do a job. I mean, shit, it can't be that fucking hard.
Is this the worst app, Ben? The PGA Championship one? I always forget every year which one's like the really shitty one. I feel like this is the really shitty one.
Does the Open even have one? Because like I always just remember obviously the yellow scoreboards, just like waiting to see what weird color the next box is filled in. But does the Open even have an app?
Yeah, because it's the yellow, it's the red, it's the blue. It just vividly sticks out in my mind. And I think it's like okay. Like, it's not terrible. This one's bad.
Yeah. This one's bad. There was one where the circle for your shot was so big, if you hit the green, it looked like you're just like, that might have went in because it covers the entire green. I think that might be this one. True disgrace.
You using Sungjae?
Yeah, Sungjae's great. The thing I like about this is we're all speculating on, what's Oak Hill going to be like? It doesn't matter for Sungjae. Difficult, easy, long, short. He can handle everything because he gains strokes everywhere. So it's not like, oh shit, I screwed up the course evaluation. I wish I didn't play him. Sungjae brings it no matter what. Now, I wish he didn't fly to Korea. That just seems like a variable he could have avoided, but his game fits any course, and it's hard not to be interested in that.
Last 5 starting at API, all elevated events. 21st, 6th of the Players, 16th of the Masters, 7th at the Heritage, and 8th at the Wells Fargo. To back up what you said, Ben, very different courses in that mix.
Doesn't matter. He can chameleon his game, and that is such a valuable skill set when we're not seeing this course every year. We don't know. Oak Hill could be randomly easy, and Sungjae can still handle that.
Yeah, and when it comes to him being tired, the guy did play like 47 weeks in a row. So maybe he's used to it. Maybe the guy just doesn't get tired.
How about Shane Lowry? It seemed like he was getting tired for a while, but he's back. He's played some of these longer-ish. I mean, it's a par 70. It's not like the longest course ever, but it's going to play pretty long, especially with those par 3s being up over 230 yards. Lowry's game tee to green has been very solid all year long. I mean, he's firmly a member of Team No Putt at this point, but his short game is at least pretty good. Ben, do you have interest in Lowry?
He's someone that if I make some teams where I say the winning score is like 4 under, it's really hard and it's difficult. When he puts himself straight out of tournaments, like when he doesn't have it on the greens, it's non-competitive, and that worries me. I don't worry about like Harbor Town. That's just a weird course, but he wasn't good at Wells Fargo. Cautiously optimistic, but there's plenty of guys ahead of him, Fitzpatrick and co. I'd give the nod over than Lowry.
Do you like Fitzpatrick more than you like Shane Lowry, Kenny?
I love Lowry. I like both those guys personally. It'd be a hard pick. If I had to pick one or two, I'd probably pick Fitz. But I would expect Fitz to be a little bit more expensive and a little bit more owned. I'm putting Lowry in like the low 8, high 7s. Something like that could be your 4th guy in for a guy who plays difficult courses well, whose PGA Championship track record is pretty solid. And I know it's different courses, but they try and set up the course very, very similar year in and year out. It has something to do with that, and I like Lowry a lot. Personally, I'd probably go Fitz a little bit. I like Fitz more, but I'm going to be playing both of those guys. I'm thinking Fitz you'll get in the higher 8K range. And I like him just because around the green in the sand, he's been hitting the ball a lot farther, off the tee. It's really, really helped his game in the last year. You've seen with these big time wins. I like both those guys. I put Fitz over Lowry when it comes to overall, but just depending on the price, could be a $700 price difference, maybe even more.
It could be. I would guess that Lowry is most definitely, because he doesn't have the win, and Fitz recently just won a major last year. I actually like Fitz better.
I mean, I like Fitz better too, but I mean, I'm going to be playing both.
Okay. How about Jason Day, Mr. Vertigo himself? I haven't used Day, Ben, I think, at all this year. I'm considering it this week. Although there is someone in the Jason Day category that I'm most definitely using, which is just going to be hilarious when it comes down to it. But Day's game is kind of tailor-made for PGA championships.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that. Obviously, that was a long time ago, but it's in the trophy closet. And the game's in decent shape. Wells Fargo disappointed, but I'm fine. Miscuts are going to happen. When they happen right before majors, they leave a bad taste in people's mouths. Playing well right now. We'll see how he finishes up. I'm comfortable with Jason Day in this format. Yeah, I plan to get pretty healthy exposure to him this week.
It's odd, Kenny, because the approach play just really hasn't been that good this year, despite the really good results. But the driving is back. If he can keep up the driving, he putts as well as he has been putting, and the short game just continues to be so reliable. I think he can get away with some. I'm not betting him to win, but I think as a top end DraftKings play, I could see it this week.
Yeah, I mean, he shot 64 today.
Well, I shot 67 at the Bunny Ranch today. Like, who didn't?
I understand. I mean, the thing about it is, again, I'm like with you. I haven't used him at all this year. He was one of my last outs this past week for the Byron Nelson, which of course usually means he's going to do well. Well, every time my last out guys finish top 5, 10 of the last 15 weeks, is just the way it is. But, of course, his driver is a big weapon, especially, he has that ball flight. He has that carry. He's one of those type of drivers. He doesn't rely much on the roll. If it's softer conditions, it's going to be helpful for him. If he's a cheap, mid to low AK price, it's definitely someone I'm going to have to look at.
Sam Burns is who I got up next here. Ben, I haven't made it yet, but I think I'm going to bet Sam Burns to win.
I like him more as a bet than a DFS play, just because Sam Burns has shown that gear, but I think his miscut equity is pretty high relative to his range. So if I do anything with Sam Burns, it would be in the betting market. I don't typically like to target him on non-Bermuda and here. So I think he's probably a pass for me in the DFS streets.
One of the main reasons that I like Burns this week, Kenny, and you kind of hit on carry distance a little bit earlier when we were talking about Rory and Cam Young, Burns also rates up with those guys in terms of carry distance, which could be a huge asset. And if he just wants to go out and gain 10 strokes putting, at least I know he can do it.
Yeah, he could do that, but the thing about him, he's worse than Morikawa and worse than Hovland and worse than Cam Young around the greens.
He's been better around the greens this year, a lot better.
I guess, but overall, I guess in the last 50, maybe he's gotten he's improved a little bit more, but in the last 50, he's horrible. He rates out for me outside the top 130 in this field, and there's only 140 guys that you can actually that have stats. When it comes down to it over here on Fantasy National, when it comes to Sam Burns. So I'm just never a Burns guy. I could just never get on him, and he just hasn't showed me very much when it comes to majors either in that same Homa aspect. It's a pass for me.
Hideki. You talked about Hideki a little bit earlier. We only have one round of data from him since he's returned from his neck injury, and he played really well in the first round of the Byron Nelson. We'll see how that turns out. I bet him to win this week, so I hope he wins. But 16th at the Masters, 15th at Valero, 5th at the Players. The only thing really holding him back, which is really strange, is the distance. Now, the driving numbers are really good. He's gaining a bunch of strokes off the tee, but a lot of that is accuracy based. The distance that Hideki we always felt used to have is kind of gone now.
Yeah, I sort of feel like that was sort of injury related.
Maybe.
To me, with a neck injury, not being able to pull as hard, at least he's being more accurate. And when it comes to difficult long courses, he does fairly well. I like him. He went to Japan, last week, got some surgery, whatever he did. I don't think he got surgery, but he got some treatment on his neck, which is a pretty normal thing for Asians. I mean, my family travels to Korea to get health work done, possibly because it's 1/20th of the price. But I don't think Hideki has to worry about that when it comes down to it. Hopefully, some people, he got some work in for his injury. He should be healthy. He played pretty well this morning, 66 over at the Bunny Ranch. At least it showed a little something. Yeah, give me some Hideki this week.
What do you make of it, Ben? Because there's a possibility, depending on how the pricing shakes out, that you could have a team that's like Brooks, Sungjae, Fitz, Burns, Hideki with like $7,500 left.
Yeah, the balance of omitting Scheffler and Rahm are going to open doors. If you take the next step and you omit Xander and Cantlay, now you're really looking at those type of teams. So I have no issues with Hideki. The thing that doesn't bother me, if you sacrifice some distance for some accuracy and you have long irons in your back pocket, that's okay. It's not ideal maybe, but he can still really get it out there. And he's going to have some long approaches in, and he'll be able to handle that.
And bentgrass, we've seen him win on bentgrass. He won the Masters. He won Memorial. So at least we know this isn't Hideki who's just going to miss everyone. I mean, maybe he will miss every single putt. We've seen that happen. That generally happens on Bermuda for him over bentgrass, where he generally has a better sense of the speed. I want to do a bit of rapid fire now. I want a yes or no answer. And if it's a yes, just sum it up very quickly on all of these guys. Kenny, we'll start with you. Tom Kim.
No, too short, not ready for a major. No Tom Kim for me. He hasn't played as well as I think people thought he would this season. Not that many top tens, no.
No for me too. Ben?
No.
Okay. Sahith Theegala, Ben?
Also, no. He's super talented, but I think he's living pretty dangerously right now. Don't love the off the tee at times. Too erratic.
Kenny?
No for me. On the few times he's played really difficult courses, that hasn't really shown up.
He does have some pretty good form coming in. I'm considering throwing him into the mix. Played well at Farmers, played well at Genesis, played well at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, all top 15 finishes at those. He just has a string of really good results, and I do like that he can heat up with the putter a little bit and save his ass. He's very good from the sand as well. It gives him a significant advantage over a lot of the field. So he's going to be on my short list. I'm going to take a pass. I hate doing this, Ben, on Tyrrell Hatton.
It's going to be a tough one for me. If I had to say right now, I would say pass. Maybe I'm just biased because Bermuda and him are so linked together at this point, but that's a scary fade.
Kenny?
It'll be a no for me. I think once he gets into a couple of these bunkers, he's going to break some clubs in half.
Yeah. Joaquin Niemann of the LIV Tour. How the hell has Niemann been playing? I have no idea. Let's see. He's 30th and 8th in his past two starts on the LIV Tour. He's going to be a pass for me, Kenny.
It's a pass for now. I worry about, like I said, like 15% of his drive is the roll. If it's soft and the ball just stops and doesn't roll, he's going to be with the shorties. So no for me.
Ben?
Dark horse winner, Joaquin Niemann. I like him this week. He's got Memorial splits. All the talent was there. I don't know how he'll react. He still hasn't shown it a ton in majors, but there was progress. 16th at the Masters. Niemann is a guy I think could really play well if it kind of links up. He's in the pool for me.
He does feel like a very good DraftKings leverage play in this area where we've just talked about five guys that we really like, and knowing that he has that spike upside. You mentioned Memorial splits, very good. Riviera splits, really good. So we know that these daunting courses that are long aren't really going to be that big of a factor for him. So maybe you've swayed me a little bit. Here's a guy that everyone's in on, Tommy Fleetwood. I'm in. Ben, you in?
Always in on Fleetwood.
Kenny?
Oh, yeah, I'm in. You've been playing well.
How about Patrick Reed?
Yeah, long, difficult course. I'm in.
Long, difficult course in the Northeast, Ben, where he continues just to do great work.
Yeah, I think, again, I'll probably stack him with difficult, like weird scramblers, but I'm in.
How's he been doing on LIV? Patrick Reed, 3rd and 13th in his past two LIV starts, and then 4th and 4th in Orlando and then at the Masters. So he comes in pretty good form. I like him this week. I have bet on Keegan Bradley to win this event at 125 to 1. When it comes to total driving, whether it be distance, whether it be accuracy, long irons. He does all of these things really well, plays well at Donald Ross courses. Soft conditions, Kenny. Keegan Bradley does really well. The putter hasn't been a huge liability yet this year, so I love Keegan, regardless of what his price and ownership is going to be.
Yes, on Keegan, like you said, above average of basically everything I'm looking for. And you're probably going to get him at like mid 7K. Guy who's above average in every stat that you're looking for at that price, I'm in.
Ben?
Yeah, I think he could have a pretty reasonable price on top of everything else. Could be cash viable.
How about Justin Rose, Ben?
Justin Rose, I'd put with Patrick Reed. I think if you think it plays very difficult, sand save, stuff like that's really important, Justin Rose can navigate. If you think it's easier and it's about distance and things like that, that would be a no.
Kenny, Rose hasn't played since the Masters when he was 25th.
Yeah, I mean, I like him. I'm going to play him. I mean, the thing about Rosie is, at Aronimink, which was another Ross course. I think he finished runner-up in 2018.
To Keegan.
He has, to Keegan, that's right. So he has some good experience, some good thought processes when it comes to these type of courses in the Northeast. I got no problem with Rosie. I was going to put a Ryder Cup thing. He needs to, but I think the way he's been playing, he's going to make the team no matter what. But that's still probably in the back of his mind, a little bit more motivation for him.
Yeah, I think that he's on the team regardless with his win at Pebble Beach.
I think so too.
I misspoke. He played at Heritage the week after the Masters. So his past two starts, 25th and 16th at the Masters, comes in really good form. He has the win earlier this year too. And I like him on bent more than anything. It has been his preferred putting surface on the PGA Tour over the course of his career as well. So he's on the short list for me. Corey Connors is not Kenny for me.
No, too short, horrible from the sand. No.
Ben?
Probably going to be over-owned. That makes it tough. So outside looking in for me.
Bryson DeChambeau. How about this? What do you think his price is going to be, Ben?
4,800. They're going to change the rules for him. I have honestly no idea. If I had to guess for his price, I'd say 7,100.
I was thinking like maybe just stick it to him a little bit. I don't know if he's a DraftKings sponsored guy anymore, but like I don't know how you could price him reasonable. Like his best finish on LIV is 19th. There might be only 19 guys in the field, Kenny.
Yeah, and I mean, you would, if the comparisons to Wingford are true, I mean, it should line up well for him, but he's just not playing good golf.
Yeah, pass for me too. Ben, it's time. You ready for Rickie Fowler? Because I am. I'm here for it.
Oh yeah, I'm here. I tried to play Rickie at the Masters, wasn't able to do that for obvious reasons. So he's actually in the field this time. I'm looking forward to this. It'll be a great day. I only have to worry about 5 guys on my lineups. Makes building a lot easier.
Kenny, Rickie's numbers are really good, especially in the approach game. He is one of the best iron players on the planet right now.
Yeah, he's playing super consistent, breaking out top 25s left and right. It depends on the price for me. I mean, if he's like low 7K, then probably. If he's like high 7K, then probably not.
I don't know, if he's 7,600, I think like you could make him and Keegan exactly the same price. I like Keegan a little bit more, but Fowler's not far behind.
Yeah, I mean, he's been playing better than Keegan too, really. Overall, the form's much better. I can't tell you not to play him.
All right, hottest man on the planet at the moment, Ben? Talor Gooch.
Yeah, I don't know. Too bad. If he wins this, does he get into the U.S. Open?
I'm not sure. Maybe if he wins on LIV again, gets 3 in a row, and then wins the PGA Championship. But he has 2 wins on LIV, the last 2 events. He's playing great golf. I do think that he'll be weirdly over-owned, Kenny.
Yeah, I think it's an ownership play for me. If it doesn't look like he's going to catch that much steam, then I'm in. Also, the price. I mean, the guy's playing really good golf. But you can't play everybody. We'll have to see what it comes down to. I'm undecided on Gooch as of now.
All right. Well, I think we've hit everyone that I wanted to hit on. I want to throw it to you guys if there's nominees that you want to bring up. Looking at the lower end of the pricing, not as an outright winner or anything like that, but as a lower end DraftKings play, I like Denny McCarthy at this course.
I mean, the mad putter. I mean, he could do it. I like Siwoo. I got to go with my Korean brethren. Of course, around the green, he's strong. He's been incredibly consistent here lately. I like Siwoo at a cheap price this week.
I just worry about since Siwoo won Sony, he's been kind of bad.
I mean, he's been making cuts. He hasn't been the greatest, but I mean, we know what Siwoo can do. He can just pop. And I think he's worth a risk at low 7Ks, maybe even high 6Ks.
Yeah, if he is that low, I don't think that he is going to end up being that low. Ben, do you like Siwoo?
I think he's price dependent. If he's that low and last man in, sure. If he's in like the Keegan and Rickie bucket, no, I'm not going to be able to get there.
So Denny McCarthy, I just feel like plays well in the Northeast. Obviously, the chipping and putting can help him out a lot. I've just seen him play really well at difficult courses. It's funny, when you think of a guy that makes that many putts, and like at the top end of his game, you would think that he would win a Sony Open or something that's like minus 25 because he makes everything. It's actually in tournaments like this, Ben, that he actually excels a little bit more, despite not having the skill set whatsoever for these courses.
Yeah, again, he's part of that counterintuitive Hovland bucket of some of the skill sets not matching up. So I get that. And his putting travels everywhere.
The other one who everyone has kind of forgotten about, yet after his win, he has played very consistent golf. Kenny, Taylor Moore sets up really well here.
Yeah, I just worry about guys in that vein who, I guess he got his first tour win, but just so young. I don't think he's ready. I mean, but for a DraftKings play, I mean, at 6,700, yeah, I mean, the guy's form is really, really strong. I can't go against it. We'll have to see what his price is, basically, for me to make a decision on that.
Yeah, very good off the tee. The putter has been electric, Ben. And since he won at Valspar, he was 39th in his first Masters, 11th at the Heritage, 27th a week ago at the Wells Fargo. So he can continue to play very good golf, and just no one's noticed.
Just solid. Been churning out solid finishes for sure.
Do you have any nominees from the bottom of the board?
So I got two real quick. I think Gary Woodland has just been playing well. Now his around the green game and putting is real dangerous, but man, is he striping it. So him, and then this one, Kenny just said like not ready for the moment. I don't know if Cam Davis is ready for the moment either, but he can get it out there. He's got a somewhat well-rounded game, but this is a different animal in terms of course for him. That's my biggest concern. But those are two guys right now that are on the list. I don't know where their price will fall. Woodland, obviously, long irons. He's going to be ready to go.
What about Wyndham Clark? I'm sorry.
I don't know.
No?
I just don't know with him. I think that he will be very popular.
Yeah, if he's super popular, then probably not. But long irons, good. Long off the tee, and putt his ass off.
What about Adam Scott?
I mean, he looked really good today.
Nelson?
Yeah, I mean, but again, it is the Bunny Ranch. I mean, I at a cheaper price, I can get behind him. I'm definitely looking at him. I bet him this week. 33-1 or something like that. He's got to be in the hundreds for this. So yeah, I'll definitely take a peek at him.
Yeah, the long iron type guys that are really good, like Min Woo is really good with long irons. Kurt Kitayama is really good with long irons. I actually don't mind Adrian Moronk either, coming off the win at the Italian Open. He hits it long and he hits it straight. That's just going to resolve a lot of problems, even if you're not going to go out and chip it up or do whatever. Like, he's just going to hit a lot of greens in regulation and be on his way. And that might be good enough at a course like this to get you through it. Someone who comes in at a very low price and someone that, honestly, I think he's going to be on the Ryder Cup team. So he's an elite level player on the European side, but we know that the DP World Tour is weaker than it's ever been at the moment. So I don't know how much that's really saying, although I do just really like him. He actually had some nice turns earlier in the season on the PGA Tour as well. So before we came on, I made my quote unquote core for where we are standing right now. And obviously this is going to change by the time I get to Wednesday and finalize these picks with Tambo. But here it is. Tier 1, 4 guys. Cantlay, Keegan, Rickie, and Woodland are my 4 guys in Tier 1. Then it's Xander, Adam Scott, Jason Day, and Fleetwood in Tier 2. Finau, Hideki, and Sungjae in Tier 3. And then Denny McCarthy and Taylor Moore in Tier 4 of guys that I just feel very good about. And listen, we talked about Justin Thomas and Sam Burns and a lot of these guys that I do like. But in terms of how I feel safety-wise about them, Ben, those would be my tiers right now.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of how I would recommend structuring. You've got some leverage plays in there, you've got some safety, and then it's just about connecting those dots. And I'm going to try to do the same thing and see what we can do here. I feel optimistic about this.
How do you feel about that core, Kenny?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good to me. I mean, I have no problem with that. Mine might be just a little bit different. I mean, you guys have already heard mine. Finau, Xander, Brooks, are the three guys that I'll be targeting heavily in that 9K range. Those are the ones that I've probably made my mind on right now. Everyone else I'm still trying to figure out, but your core seems fine to me. I got no problem with it.
You can check out Kenny's core on Fantasy Golf Degenerates Monday night, or actually Sunday night on Mayo Media Network, and over at gupscorner.com. Play in the Fantasy Golf Degenerates Listeners League as well, and follow Kenny on Twitter at KendoVT. Play in the Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League. That link is down in the description. You want $500? I told you all other ways to do that. Rating and review, sub to the channel, retweet, and join the newsletter down in the description. Ben Rasa, Stokastic.com. Are you just going to be out of the house all week, or are you actually doing content?
Yeah, no, I'm back indoors. Don't worry, everybody. That was a one-time thing. Yeah, we'll have content all week, of course, on Twitter at JazzRazDFS. Just going to be a fun week in the golf community. Everyone banding together, hopefully picking some winners. So yeah, here, us at Stokastic will be doing the same stuff. Stop on by for even more content.
You can follow Ben on Twitter at JazzRazDFS, and I highly recommend that you do so. Same thing with following me at the PME. Thank you all for watching the intro to the PGA Championship. Smash a like while you're here and give me your biggest fade down in the description as well. Good luck this week. Someone out there better win $1 million who's watching this show. Maybe two of you can win $1 million. But like I told you about those giveaways, at least you can win $500 just by doing very simple tasks for free. Nothing else that goes on you, all right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!